Indriyanam hi charatam. Indriyanam hi charatam. Yan manonu vidiyate. Yan manonu vidiyate. Tadasya harati prajñam. Tadasya harati prajñam. Vayu navam imam vasi. Vayu navam imam vasi. Indriyanam hi charatam. Yan manonu vidiyate. Tadasya harati prajñam. Vayu navam imam vasi. So I will repeat the entire verse. Please listen till I finish and then you can repeat after me. Indriyanam hi charatam yan manonu vidiyate tadasya harati prajñam vayu navam imam vasi.
Indriyanam hi charatam yan manonu vidiyate tadasya harati prajñam vayu navam imam vasi.
So we'll hear somebody from Prabhu's side and one Mataji. Anybody from the Prabhu side?
Indriyanam hi charatam.
Indriyanam hi charatam yan manonu vidiyate tadasya harati prajñam vayu navam imam vasi. Any Matajis?
Indriyani hi charatam.
Indriyanam hi charatam
Janmo nu vidhiyate.
yan manonu vidiyate
Tatsya harati paragram.
tadasya harati prajñam
Vajuna vami vam bhase.
vayu navam imam vasi. So you can repeat after me the word for word meaning. Indriyanam
Indriyanam
of the senses. He certainly. Charatam while roaming. Yet with which. Manaha the mind. Anuvidiyate becomes constantly engaged. Tat that. Asya his. Harati takes away. Prajñam intelligence. Vayu wind. Navam a boat. Eva like. Ambasi on the water. Translation: as a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambarish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. So here, the art of controlling the mind is explained by Srila Prabhupada, and this is an amazing verse in Bhagavad Gita. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. So we may be able to control some of the senses but not all of the senses, but even one of the uncontrolled senses is like the unfavorable wind. It can carry away to a wrong destination. So last week we heard the definition of who is in steady intelligence. And Lord Krishna explained, Tasmad yasya mahabhavo nigrahitani sarvasa indriyan indriyatebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. So who's in steady intelligence? One who's able to restrain his senses. So last week we heard the wonderful part of Uddhava Gita from the 11th canto. Uddhava Gita contains 23 chapters from the 7th chapter to the 29th chapter of the 11th canto. And we were able to hear the wonderful narration of Avadhuta to King Yadu, and he said he's able to be in steady intelligence, control his mind, because he learned from 24 different gurus. So we'll recap some of the instructions that he learned from 7 of his gurus, because last week we were able to hear the wonderful narration of Avadhuta to King Yadu, which is the 7 gurus. So we'll try to continue from there, and hopefully we can cover all the 24 gurus, but we'll see how it goes. We have 50 minutes, and if you remember, the first guru of Avadhuta. So before we go into that, just to recap what was narrated last week. So Avadhuta is none other than Dattatreya, who is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the 6th incarnation according to the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Dattatreya is the son of Anasuya and Atri Muni, and he's got 2 brothers, and they are Soma and Durvasa Muni. Most of you are remembering that, it's very good. And Uddhava Gita, as we mentioned last week, contains 1030 verses, 1030 verses, and it contains 23 chapters, versus Bhagavad Gita, which is all of us know, contains 18 chapters and 700 verses. And Bhagavad Gita was spoken by Lord Krishna to Arjun, and Uddhava Gita was spoken by Lord Krishna to Uddhava. And who's Uddhava? Anybody remembers? He's the cousin brother of Lord Krishna, and he is the Vasudev is the father of Lord Krishna, and Vasudev has a brother, and his name is Devapaga, and Devapaga's son is Uddhava. So Lord Krishna's cousin brother is Uddhava, and Uddhava is a personification of humbleness, and he did not want to be born as a gopi. After understanding the exalted nature of the gopis, he wanted to be born as a shrub or a small plant or a herb in Vrindavan, so that the gopis can trample him and bless him with the dust from their lotus feet. So he's very, very humble in nature, and he's the embodiment of humbleness. So the instructions that Lord Krishna is giving Uddhava is based on the question that Uddhava asked Lord Krishna. Again, this is relevant to all of us. The question that Uddhava asked was, Lord Krishna, you said attachment is the cause of all grief. Attachment to material things is the cause of all grief. But I can understand that, but I'm not able to practically implement that and practice that. So that is why Lord Krishna is narrating this wonderful experience of Avadhuta, who learned from 24 different gurus, and Avadhuta is narrating that to King Yadu. King Yadu is the ancestor of or forefather of Lord Krishna, King Yadu. So the first guru that he learned from was Earth. Mother Earth was the first guru. How's that? Mother Earth is being trampled by everybody. Mother Earth carries the weight of all the oceans, all the seas, all the mountains, and still it gives all the necessities of everyone, including earthworm, including the richest man in the universe. Still, he is dependent on things that are supplied by Mother Earth. And the second thing that Avadhuta learned from Mother Earth was, Earth does not deviate in its path around the sun. Like that, Avadhuta learned not to deviate from God consciousness. Keep the center of activity, Lord Krishna as the center of activity, like Earth keeps the sun in the center and revolves around that. So Earth does not deviate from its path. Similarly, Avadhuta learned after seeing Earth that he should not deviate in God consciousness, and he has to keep Lord Krishna in the center. So that is what he learned from Earth. And an extension of Earth is of course mountains, and mountains gives the cool, refreshing water, and also it gives all these wonderful minerals, and it gives again to the necessities of everybody, expecting nothing in return. And mountain is immovable. Like that, Avadhuta learned that he has to be immovable and steady, very steady in God consciousness. And Mother Earth, if you remember, took the form of a cow when she was burdened by these miscreant kings, and she approached Brahma, and because of that, Lord Krishna appeared. And the other extension of earth is tree. Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarori Vashavistana, Manina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. And tree, even if it's going to be cut, it does not protest, and it becomes a firewood as well, and it gives beautiful, fragrant, luscious fruits, shade, everything is given, and expecting nothing in return, very tolerant. So those are the things that Avadhuta learned by observing earth, by observing the extension of the earth, which is mountain and the trees. So I'm not sure whether you can see, for those of you who are at the back, so we listed all the 24 gurus of Avadhuta here. So the second guru of Avadhuta is wind. So what did he learn from wind? We are recapping what we heard last week. So what did Avadhuta learn from the wind? So from the wind blows on top of a garden of roses. It carries wonderful fragrance. It also travels in the path of a gutter or a garbage. It carries that smell as well. When it goes near Niagara Falls, it carries that moisture as well, but nothing sticks to it. Like that, we have dualities in life. That's what Avadhuta learned. We have victory. We go through victory or defeat, pleasure or pain. So we go through these dualities of life, birth or death, disease or health. So irrespective of what we go through, like whether it's the fragrant smell of the roses that the wind goes through, or the gutter, like that we may have two sides of our life. In spite of that, we will not get attached to either one of them. We will not be elated or be distraught, but we will. That's what Avadhuta learned from the wind. And also Srila Prabhupada, he was in this beautiful land of Vrindavan. Then he came to the ghetto in the brewery in New York. He was surrounded by drug addicts and everyone else. Still, he was giving Krishna to everybody. And then later on, when the movement grew bigger, he was offered wonderful mansion in England by George Harrison. Still, he was giving Krishna to everybody. When he was in Jaladhuta, he went through so much of suffering and pain, but still he was giving Krishna to whomsoever was there. So that is what Avadhuta learned from the wind, not to get attached to anything. Nothing sticks to the soul. From the sky, what did he learn? The clouds seem to be very close to the sky, but it is not connected to the sky. There is so much of thunderstorm and lightning. Looks like it's connected to the sky, but it is not. So he learned that the soul is not affected whatever happens to the body. Body may be born, body may die, but the soul is unaffected. Like nothing can affect the sky. There's so much of lightning and thunder, dangerous lightning, but nothing affects the sky. That's what he learned from the sky. From water, what did he learn? From water, transparency, purity, and the vibration. When the waterfalls fall down, there's beautiful vibration. When the river flows, there's beautiful, wonderful vibration. And what did he learn from that? The purity of the exalted souls. It purifies our sinful reaction. So it expunges the sinful reaction. And the transparency, Paramatma is visible to everybody because of this purity. That there's no lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and illusion in his heart. And the vibration, the beautiful vibration of water flowing or water falling or the raindrops falling, he is able to understand the wonderful vibration of exalted devotees when they chant the holy names of the Lord. If you remember, we heard Srila Prabhupada chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra last week, and wonderful vibration was coming from that chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra by Srila Prabhupada. So that's what he learned from water. And we also heard with the left toe, Vamanadev pierced the layer of the universe, and from there the causal ocean came, washing the feet of the Lord Vamanadev, and that became Ganges. This is from 8th canto, as well as the purport by Srila Prabhupada in the 5th canto. And what did he learn from fire? So many things he learned from fire. The first thing he learned from fire is that great devotees are like fire covered by ashes. They don't try to glorify their own existence. They don't try to glorify themselves. They're very simple and humble. But when butter or oil is sprinkled, then the glory shows up. Like that, when somebody approaches the saint, Tadvini Pranipadena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnanina Tattvadarshina. In a humble state of mind, when one approaches the Guru to learn the truth, then it is revealed to the devotees. And also, fire is present in the wood. And how is it manifested? When there is friction. Similarly, Lord is present everywhere. And how is the Lord manifesting? Through devotional service. So he understood this as well. And also the fire, the flame seemed to be constant, but it is not, because every moment it's being regenerated. In a candle flame, it's not constant. Actually, it's regenerated, but for the naked eye, we are unable to see that. Like that, the body goes through transformation every minute. And even the scientists have proved that every 7 years, the entire cells of the body are being replaced. And what did he learn from moon? Moon also has this waning crescent, waxing crescent, we have full moon, we have Amavasa, Paurami, all this we have. But actually, the moon is moon. It is still round. It's not getting broken up into 1/4, half size. It's what we see. Similarly, the soul is unaffected, but the transformation that the body goes through, 6 transformations, they are birth, growth, maintenance, reproduction, decay, and death. So that does not affect the soul. So that is what he understood from the moon. From the sun, what did he understand? What did he learn? Sun was his guru. How was that? The sun takes everything, but the sun gives as well. So the sadhu takes everything from the Vedic literature and he gives it back in a format that we understand, like Prabhupada does. And how does the sun do that? The sun absorbs water from vast bodies of water, like ocean. The salt water is absorbed, and what does it give back? Rain, sweet water. Rain is coming out, and how does it manifest? How does it work out? It's through evaporation. All of us know that evaporation. And once it goes higher up, there is condensation, and when it becomes more cooler, then there is precipitation. That's how we get rain. And those are the 7 gurus that he learned from, and we were able to hear this last week. So we'll try to continue and see how many more gurus that we can learn from. Next he learned was from Pijian. What did he learn from Pijian? Not to have too much attachment to anything material, even if it is family members. So there was a male and female Pijian. They loved each other. They were attached by bonds of infatuation to each other. And they lived in a forest for many, many years. And then they had this wonderful nest. And in due course of time, the female pigeon laid wonderful eggs. And from the eggs, beautiful baby pigeons were born. And the father and mother loved the baby pigeon's growth, like any parent does, because for any parent, that child is the most beautiful. Even if it's a pig, the piglet is the most beautiful for the pig. So for the parents, their children are the most beautiful. So they love this baby pigeons, awkwardly trying to make some sound and trying to jump and fly. They were enjoying their growth. And one day, the father and mother went far away to get some food for the baby pigeons. So the baby pigeons were all by themselves in the nest, jumping up and down. And at that time, a cruel hunter in the form of death came, put the net, caught these baby pigeons. And the father and mother pigeon came back And the mother pigeon first saw these babies crying and the love that the mother had for the children, baby birds. And the baby bird's heart for the mother was heartbreaking for the mother to take. And the mother was thinking how I can save the babies. So she went straight to the net which had captured all these baby birds, and this cruel hunter captured the mother pigeon as well. Now the father comes and he sees the babies are trapped. The wife is trapped. They are more than his own life. He does not know what to do. He's thinking, what can I do? How can I save them? How miserable my life would be without my wife and without my baby pigeons. So what does he do? He goes and tries to save them. He is also captured. So all of them are killed by this hunter. So here, Sridhar Swami is one of our great acharyas. So what is he saying? It's like we going to a high cliff. Human being is the highest form of life in this 8.4 million species of life. It's like we achieve this rare human birth and we come up to the hill and we trip and fall down. Now what is the lesson the Avadhuta learned from here? It's not to not have attachment to family members, not excessive attachment, because at the time of death, what we think is what we will get. At the time of death, if we are thinking of this hunter or if we are thinking of any other living being, we will be born again as that. Antakalecha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yat prayati sadatbhavam yati nastyastra samshaya. At the time of death, if you think of Krishna, we'll go to Krishna. So not to have excessive attachment. That is what he learned from this pigeon. And Prabhupada in the purport quotes another wonderful story from the second chapter of the 7th canto. This particular story is narrated by a very, very powerful personality whose life has been studied scrutinizingly by saints and sages for millions of years. For millions of years, this personality's life has been scrutinizingly studied by saints and sages. Who's that? Anybody can guess? Hiranyakashipu. So Hiranyakashipu is a demoniac personality, but he's well versed in Vedic literature. But he is into the sense gratification because he's not a devotee of the Lord, but he understands Vedic concept. So he is narrating this pastime to Rushabhanu. Rushabhanu is the wife of Hiranyaksha, his brother, who was killed by Varahadev. So at that moment, he's trying to console his sister-in-law, his mother Diti, and also his nephews. So he starts off. So this is a story that is narrated by Hiranyakashipu to Rushabhanu and Diti and his nephews. The same pastime is later on narrated by Narada Muni to Yudhishthir Maharaj, and the same pastime is narrated by Sukdev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit, and the same pastime by Suta Goswami to the saints in Naimisharanya forest, and through Prabhupada we hear this pastime as well. So here, to console the sister-in-law, the mother and the nephews, he is explaining that do not grieve of a death of a hero in front of his enemy. So he starts off on the wrong foot. First of all, he's calling his brother a hero, and we know Hiranyaksha was not a hero by any stretch of imagination, but we can't call him a zero because he's an exalted devotee in the sense they were Jaya and Vijay previously. So in this past time they came as Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. But he calls his brother a hero and he calls the Lord an enemy. Now Lord is the super soul. He's the friend. Bhoktaram eketa tavasam sarva loka maheshwaram sukrudam sarva bhutanam. Sukrudam sarva bhutanam means he's the supreme well-wisher of all living entities. So Lord does not have any enemy. He's the best friend of everybody. What about the Lord? Even the devotees of the Lord do not have enemies. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmini Gaviyastini Sunicheva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. He sees with equal vision everybody. And Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma Nasochati Nakamshati Sama Sarveshu Bhuteshu. He treats all living entities equally. So this is the devotees of the Lord. What to speak of the Lord himself. So he slightly starts off on the wrong foot, but then he preaches wonderfully well. So he says, life is a temporary gathering of all the relatives. It's just a temporary gathering. It is like in a restaurant, everybody gets together. You don't know the other people who are in the restaurant. You come, get together for some time, 1 hour, you all eat, and then you go away in your own ways. Like we go into Montreal, you take a break, you take an exit and you go to a mall, to have some water or anything like that, something like that. So there are so many people there, but then after that everybody goes in their own way. So he says life is like a temporary gathering. All the world's a stage, Shakespeare's play. Remember that? All the world's a stage, all the men are merely players. There are different entrances and exits, and each man plays different roles. It is similar to that. And then he says, the body is dead, but not the soul. When somebody dies, the body is dead, but not the soul. So this is coming from Hiranyakashipu, believe it or not. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, he's saying, when somebody dies, the body is dead, but not the soul. And he also explains that it is an illusion that somebody is thinking that the soul is dying. And he explains when the water is flowing and there are trees by the side of river, it looks like the trees are moving. If you remember, the water is flowing, the trees are there, it looks like the trees are moving. The trees are not moving, actually the water is moving. We would have had this experience, some of you, if you're half asleep and when you're driving, which is not good, you're staying in the traffic light, half asleep, waiting for the traffic light to turn green. And all of a sudden, the cars by the side of you start going and you think you're going back and you slam the brake. Has it happened to somebody? So this is an illusion. So here he's explaining that the trees seem to be moving, but actually the water is moving. Like that, the soul seemed to die, but actually the body is dying. So this is coming from Hiranyakashipu. And then to illustrate this point, he narrates a wonderful story that there was a great king called Suyagya. So this great king in the land of Usinara, there was a great king called Suyagya. And the Suyagya was a great king where he led the fight from the front. It's not like present day presidents of the countries where when they declare a war, they send 100,000 people to go to a country 10,000 miles away and they have to fight when this commander-in-chief is actually in a bunker and watching everything from here. No. In those days, Kshatriyas, they lead the fight from the front. They are first in the army. So here, Suyagya was there, a great warrior. He had many wives because Kshatriyas are entitled to have many wives. And he goes to the war and unfortunately he dies. Arrow pierces his heart and he dies with his teeth biting the lips, according to Srimad. So he's dead. And all the queens are crying with the kumkum. The tears are flowing mixed with all the kumkum that they were wearing, and it's flowing into the feet, the dead body of this king Suyagya. And they're crying so loudly that Yamaraj is able to hear this wailing of these queens. And he's also saying that the king has taken a ghost body. So he decides to come all the way from his loka, Yamaloka, to pacify the queens of King Suyagya. And at that time he decides to come in the form of a 5-year-old boy. And why did he decide to come in the form of a 5-year-old boy and not as Yamaraj? Because if he comes as Yamaraj, they'll say, you took the life of my husband, give us the life of my husband. So he decides to come in the form of a 5-year-old boy. And also he knows when a small boy preaches, everybody understands or listens to the philosophy, and also he'll have nice access to go to the palace. Because when a small boy is going, he can go anywhere. So he decides to come, and he decides to come at the time of this great catastrophe. They're so sad. And why he decides to come at the time of catastrophe is that the heart is a ripened field when there is a disaster in the family. We agree? We seem to be more receptive when there is problem. We think of God when we have a problem. Otherwise we don't chant with that faith and love and emotion. So here he knows the time is right to come and preach the philosophy, because Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukrutuno arjuna artho vigna surartati. So there are 4 types of man. One is distressed. when one is distressed, when one is desire of wealth, when one is wanting to know the knowledge of the Absolute, one who's inquisitive, at that time they are more into God consciousness. So here they are all distressed. So he decides to come and preach. So he comes in as 5-year-old boy, but at that time he's thinking, these people are so foolish. These queens are so foolish. Every minute, thousands of people are dying because they live in this land of Mrityu Loka. Everybody has to die in this earth. Everybody is dying every minute, but still they think that they are never going to die and someone else is dying, and they're grieving for the person who's left his body. The body is dead, but not the soul, but they don't understand this, and he thinks that all of them are foolish. And if you remember in Mahabharata, Yamaraj is asking Yudhishthir Maharaj, what is the most wonderful thing on earth? And what did Yudhishthir Maharaj say? The most wonderful thing on earth is people are seeing, same thing, people are seeing so many of their friends and relatives and forefathers dying every minute, but they think they will never ever die. It's always someone else who will die. You've seen during the layoff too in companies, everybody thinks someone else will get laid off, not them. So he's thinking, how foolish are these people? And he comes down and he asks the queens, why are you lamenting and crying? And they were holding the leg of the Suyagya king, all these queens. They don't want to let his leg go. Why is that? Because at that time, this sati was in place. Sati means where the wife also jumps into the fire and leaves her body. If you remember, when King Pandu died, Madri and Queen Kunti, the two wives, they had an arrangement where Madri will die with Pandu and Queen Kunti will live to take care of the 5 children. So here, when they allow the body to be burnt, that means they have to die too. So they don't want to let the body of the husband go. So they're holding on because they love their own body. They're missing the husband, but they love their own body. Yasyatma buddhi gunapetri dhatuke swati kaladradisu bhaumeyejasi. So here Lord Krishna is saying, one who thinks that their self is the body made of bile, mucus and hair, and the relatives will be there with them permanently. They are no better than ass or a cow. So here they are behaving like that because they don't want to leave their body because they are attached to the body. So they are holding on to the feet. And Yamaraj comes in the form of a 5-year-old boy and he's asking, why are you crying and lamenting like this? They say, now who will save us? We are dependent on the king and the king is dead. How can we survive? And he starts preaching. He says, I'm a 5-year-old boy. I've come through forest. Nothing has happened to me. Have faith in the Supreme Personality of God. If you remember, all this is narrated by Hiranyakashipu. So every word is from Hiranyakashipu. And he goes on to say, if any wealth is lost in public, for example, you lose a wallet in a road, by the arrangement of the Lord, even after 2 days when you go, it will be invisible to others. If you will get it sometimes. But sometimes the wealth that is saved very, very safely in a bank or overseas account, it will go away. However, we try to make it safe. So he's explaining, wealth that is lost in public can be had back by the will of the Supreme Lord. But the saved wealth, which is very, very safe, will go away by the will of the God as well. And also, somebody who is in the forest, in the midst of all these wild animals, will not get killed if it is not wanted by Lord Krishna. And somebody who's got the best medicine, best doctor, they have all the money to get the best thing. Like Steve Jobs had pancreatic cancer. What did all the money do? They could not save him. So here it says, have faith in the supreme will of the Lord. And the body that each one of us gets is not because of the Lord, it is by our own misuse of the free will. So again, all this is from Hiranyakashipu. And he's saying, by the way, why are you crying? You were thinking the king is the body. Now the king is here. He's lying down in front of you. So why are you lamenting? They were thinking the king is the body. He's there in front of you. Why are you crying? But if you think that the body is different from soul, and you did not know this until I just told you that, still you don't have to lament because the soul was there all along and you did not know that the soul existed. So a person, if you call this person a soul, who you did not know, left, so why are you lamenting? In either way, you don't have to lament. If he's the body, you don't have to lament. If he's the soul, you don't have to lament because there is no death for the soul and you did not even know about the soul. And then to illustrate this point, he narrates another story. So there is a story inside story. So here, Yamaraj is telling about Kulinga birds. So we start out with this pigeon. If you remember, the 8th guru of Avadhuta is pigeon. So similar story is about Kulinga birds. So Yamaraj is telling the wives of King Suyagya that there was husband and wife Kulinga birds. Kulinga birds. What are Kulinga birds? Kulinga birds is the bird who goes and eats the meat that is stuck in between the teeth of a lion, and he tells others, don't eat, it's very risky, don't. But when the lion yawns, this bird tries to go and take that meat. So that is Kulinga bird, according to Vedanta Desikar. So here, husband and wife Kulinga birds are there. Wife is again caught by the net of the hunter in the form of death. And the male Kulinga bird is lamenting, oh, what am I going to do? My wife is dead and my children are all in the nest, and what will they do? Who will feed them without the mother? He's lamenting, boom, one big arrow from the hunter. Then he's dead too. So here, Yamaraj is telling, don't be foolish like this. Father Kulinga bird, everybody is going to die. You have to get into God consciousness. So from there, this comes back to this Avadhuta, Antakale cha mameva. So at the time of death, what we think we will be. If we are thinking of our family members, if we are thinking of the hunter, we will be born again in this life. So that's what he learned from pigeon. What did he learn from python? Python is ajagara. In Sanskrit, python is ajagara. Python just lies down. He doesn't go for food. Whatever comes, peacefully and patiently waits. Any food that comes, he will eat. Whether it's meager, if it's large quantity, tasty, not tasty, python will eat. Like that, he learned to take anything that comes his way. Whether it is prasadam in the form of prasadam or miseries or happiness, he's ready to take. Because miseries, how many of you want miseries? Raise your hand. How many of you really want problems every day? Does anybody pray for problems? I see only one hand, Bhakti Yoga Prabhu. So nobody prays for miseries. But can you avoid miseries forced upon us? So he realized happiness is also will come our way. We don't have to go out of the way to get happiness. We have our own quota of happiness and sorrows and miseries. It will come to us. So like this python, he patiently waits and everything. And Prabhupada in the purport of this python guru is explaining about this wonderful terminology, Yukta Vairagya and Palgu Vairagya. Yukta means proper or link. And Vairagya means detachment or renunciation. So proper renunciation. So you do what you have to do and don't worry about the result. Offer the result to Lord Krishna. And proper renunciation means anything you can use for the service of the Lord. So Prabhupada has mentioned that used to say that all these beautiful parks have been made. As devotees, they go to the park and they use the park to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. What happened in Thompson Square Park in New York? That's where the movement started and flourished. So the park is done by materialists for some other purpose, but Prabhupada used to preach. The aeroplane can be used for anything, but Prabhupada used that to travel around the world to give Krishna consciousness. So that is what is Yukta Vairagya, and Palgu Vairagya is this improper renunciation. Palgu is a river in Gaya in Bihar where it looks like dry sand, but if you put your finger in, there is water underneath. So there are fake renunciates. No, I will not fly because that's not good. Materialists only fly. No, you fly and preach according to what Prabhupada taught. So that's the difference between Palgu Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya. But Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, but do not be inactive like python. Python just stays there as we heard. But do not be, that's a warning for all of us, do not be inactive like a python. You can be inactive or you should be inactive for materialistic activity, but be active for spiritualistic activity. Because time is precious. With every rising and setting of sun, we are one day closer to death. With every rising and setting of sun. But to think positively, with every rising and setting of sun, devotees are one step closer to going to Goloka Vrindavan. So the choice is ours. And they say time and tide wait for none. The most precious thing that we have in our control or which is in our possession is the moment of time that we have. Even 1 second that is lost, with all the wealth in the universe, can we buy it? Can Bill Gates buy? I lost 1 hour, I overslept for 1 hour. Can I buy that 1 hour back? No. The time, 1 second lost is gone forever. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is warning us, do not be inactive like a python, but you be inactive for materialistic activity and active for spiritual activities. Not sure about the timing, but we can go on because there was also a wonderful pastime about one of the kings, King Yadu's grandfather, Nahusha, becoming a python. Maybe we'll hear that another day, it's a long story as well. What did he learn from ocean? During the winter months, there's so many billions of liters of water from all the rivers are entering the sea. Everybody agrees? All this Ganges and everything else goes into sea. That's the ultimate destination of all the rivers. So billions of liters are going into the sea during winter months. Does the sea swell? We are not talking about tsunami. Tsunami is something different. So does the sea swell during the winter months? No. During summer months, there's hardly any water going into the sea from these rivers. Does the sea dry up? No? Yes? No? No. Why? Because of the depth and the volume of sea. So similarly, Avadhuta learned that in spite of all these desires that keep coming, he should tolerate that and he should be steady like an ocean. Not get excited. Tasmad akityeso jayapa jayorapi. Samasyat sukha dukkabhyam. Samasyat sukha dukkabhyam means here Vritrasura, who's a demon, he's telling Indra, who's about to kill him. Everything happens by the supreme will of the Lord. So why should we lament or why we should be hankering for anything? So let things happen by itself. So here the sea is not hankering for water to come, or is not lamenting when there is no water is not there. So be like that. So that is what he learned from sea. And there's also wonderful pastimes with regard to the ocean from Puranic literature. Maybe we can hear that next time. Bumblebee and honeybee. Those were the 12th guru of Avadhuta. So bumblebee is also called as Brahmara. Brahmara Gita, if you remember, is the song of the bee. So from bumblebee, what did he learn? Bumblebee goes from flower to flower to flower to flower. It does not stick. For some bumblebees, they stay in one flower. But every bumblebee goes from one flower to another flower. Like that, he learned a sadhu should go from one house to another house, not get attached to a wonderful prasada made by one Mataji or Prabhu and stick there. So he'll become a chubby bee, according to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami. So that's what he learned from bumblebee. But sometimes the bumblebee is so intoxicated by the fragrance of lotus flower, so he stays in the evening. And evening, what happens? The petal of lotus closes and bumblebee is finished. So here, the saint should not stay in somebody's house for a longer period of time. That is what he learned from bumblebee. And bumblebee goes and takes the nectar from big flower, from small flower, different color flowers. Like that, he learned to take the essence from religious scriptures. What does that mean? Veda means knowledge. And you take the essence of Veda. Prabhupada explained essence of Veda is Krishna consciousness. Now, the bee does not carry the entire flower, does not carry the entire forest in his head. He just takes the essence, the most important thing. So here, he learned to take the essence, which is God consciousness or Krishna consciousness. So that is what he learned from bumblebee. Honeybee, what happens? He takes in so much of honey and he himself is trapped in that. Honeybee gets trapped in its own honey. Like that, a materialistic person tries to get more and more and more material things and he gets trapped in that consciousness, and in the next life he's again born as human being. And bee and the fly. Prabhupada used to quote this, a bee always looks for good things. Bee goes and gets the nectar from the flowers. Even if there's garbage, there's dirty things, but there's a wonderful flower there. He does not bother about the dirty things, he just goes and takes the nectar from the flower. What about the fly? The fly, the most beautiful garden is there. There is, dropping of a dog or something. He loves and goes there. He ignores all the beautiful flowers and the fragrance. So, Prabhupada is teaching us, we have the choice of either becoming a bee or a fly. So, how can we be a bee? Look at all the good things in others. You look at the bad things in others, it's becoming a fly. And also, from the fly, what can we learn? The fly sometimes goes and gets entangled in a web. And you see, he tries more harder and harder and harder. After some time, you see a ball of web that is moving around. And can he get out of that? No, somebody has to come from outside and unentangle him. Like a guru has to save us from this material entanglement. 10 more minutes. Fasten your seat belts if you can. We have a few more gurus to cover. Moth falls for the sense of sight. Where Arjun is looking at this Virat Rupa, where he's saying, like a moth dashes into destruction, this blazing fire, all the people are going into your mouth. So what happens to a moth? If there is a candle inside your house and it is next to a glass window, these moths will come flying to come and sati, to die in this fire. They come so fast, they'll hit the window and they'll die. They can't resist this temptation of sight. When they see fire, they have to go towards fire. So here, what did Avadhuta learn? Do not fall for this beauty of this world, the beautiful ornaments, the beautiful expensive jewelry that a person may wear, the beautiful structure of somebody, all that is like fall into this fire of destruction. There is also a wonderful story of the moth who fell in love with the stars. Have you heard this? There is a moth who fell in love with the stars. So he wanted to go to the light of the stars. All his fellow moths were saying, what is wrong with you? Have some quantifiable and measurable aim. Why don't you aim at this tube light? Why don't you aim at this bulb? Why don't you aim at this candlelight for him to die? That's what they do. Or if you have a bigger dream, why don't you aim even a chandelier? This star is too far away from you. And in due course of time, all his friends and relatives were ashes falling down in this platform, whereas this particular moth, our friend moth, who fell in love with the stars, he always wants to go to the stars. That kept him safe. Like us, our aim is Goloka Vrindavan. If you aim for heavenly kingdom, want to be rich again in this, it's like this moth who fall into this destruction, which is closed by sense gratification, which is easily achievable. We can get that, but it's our destruction. So it will keep us safe, even if we have a distant aim of going to Goloka Vrindavan. But do you think it's a distant aim and not possible? A moth cannot go to a star, but you think we will not be able to go to Goloka Vrindavan? What did Kratu Prabhu say when he was here? He gave a wonderful analogy. Can an ant go to Vrindavan, India? Can an ant in Toronto who's crawling there, can he go to Vrindavan, India?
Yes.
How?
In suitcase.
Exactly. That's what Kratu Prabhu said. The ant cannot walk from here, but all he has to do is get into the suitcase of this person who's going to Vrindavan. Safely, he's going in 10 hours, 18 hours, he's in India. Like that, with the grace of a spiritual master, even though it may be a distant reality for us, moth to a distant star, but by the grace of the Guru, we'll be able to go to Goloka Vrindavan. So that is the moth. Bumblebee, honeybee. Elephant has got this goes into destruction because of the sense of touch. We talk about senses here, we talk about eyes. So when we talk about moth, I just remember the wonderful pastime of Surdas. He's a great poet, musician and a saint. He's blind. And once what happened is, he's chanting the names of the Lord and he fell into a well. When he fell into the well, he's praying to Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna comes and saves him, brings him up. And at that time, Srimati Radharani is with Krishna, and Srimati Radharani goes near Surdas. And Krishna wants, do not go near Surdas. So when she's going, her ankle bells, he can hear that. So he grabs the anklet. He grabs the anklet and he takes it. And Srimati Radharani is saying, please give my anklet back. He's saying, who are you? He knows, but he's saying, who are you? I am Srimati Radharani, give it to me. But how do I know you are Srimati Radharani? I am blind. And what Krishna says is, I'm going to give you back your eyesight, and I will also give you a boon if you give this anklet back. So Krishna gives Surdas the power of eyesight, so he's able to see. So he's seeing Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani for the first time with his material eyes, and he gives the anklet back, and Lord Krishna asks, what is the boon that you want? He said, I want to be blind again. I've seen you. I don't want to see anything material anymore. Make me blind again. So Krishna made him blind again. That is Surdas. So we have to see the Lord with our spiritual eyes. And also there is a wonderful story about a girl who was blind, and she had only one friend. She hated everyone else. She had only one friend. And she said, I will marry you if only I can get eyes. And in due course of time, somebody nice donated their eyes to this girl. So they operated, she got the eyes. For the first time, she's opening the eyes, and her friend, who's a man, is there because she promised to marry him if she can see him and get the eyesight back. So she's seeing him, and he's there, but he is blind. And she says, forget it, I'm not going to marry you, you're blind, now I have eyes blind. Then he says, take care of my eyes. He's the one who gave the eyes to her. So again, we need to make use of eyes for the right thing. And then going into elephant. So elephant is being trapped by the sense of touch. If you remember those days, the she elephant will touch the male elephant and it'll go. This male elephant is all agitated. He runs behind the female she elephant. They dig a big hole. They put bamboo and grass to cover it so that it's not visible that's a big hole. The male elephant falls into it. They trap the male elephant. Like that, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, and Avadhuta has learned, a saint should not even touch the wooden doll that is shaped in the form of a woman. A saint should not even touch with his feet a wooden doll that is made in the shape of a woman. You should avoid women. It's not good for a saint. And in Srimad Bhagavatam it is said, women are like fire and men are like butter pot. You can't keep them together. And it is also said, a man should not sit by himself, even with his daughter, even with his sister, and even with his mother by himself. So this is according to Srimad Bhagavatam. I'm just quoting it. So that is what he learned from the elephant, that it's a fatal attraction. And from honeybee collects all the honey. But somebody comes and steals and goes. Like that, a materialistic person works so hard to collect all the money. And like the honey thief, death comes, and at death, everything is gone. We may be a millionaire at the time of us living. When we die, and if you are lucky to be born as human being, we start with $0 in our bank balance. You can't say, I had $1 million at the time of my death. Start with 0. So that's what we learned from honey thief. From the deer, what we learn? The deer falls for the sense of sound. How do they catch the deer? They play nice flute music. And deers have got beautiful long ears. They get attracted to the sense of sound. And so that's what Avadhuta learned, not to listen to any materialistic music. We'll get trapped into Maya. Fish, what did he learn? Fish falls for the tongue. The sense of tongue is very, very strong. He can see the beautiful bait, but he cannot see the sharp hook underneath. So he swims as fast as possible and he catches the bait and he loses his life. Like that Prabhupada says, so many slaughterhouses have been created, have been built. They don't know where they are going. They are killing all these innocent animals and they are falling into this destruction. Just like this fish fell for this bait, we are all falling into this endless miseries of birth, death and old age and disease. How can we control the tongue? Sarira vidya chal, jodendriya tayaka, we say that. Jive pele vishisagre tar madhye jiva iti. Tongue is the most difficult to control, but if you are able to control, you are controlling all other senses as well. And what is the role of the tongue? To chant the holy name of the Lord, to have prashadam and speak the truth. Speaking about the truth, there is a wonderful story of the king and the flower. A king grows wonderful flowers. He's got the most beautiful flower garden. And he wants to retire from his kingdom. He's looking for a suitable person to take over the kingdom. And he says, here, he calls all the people in the kingdom. Here's one seed. I'll see you back in a year's time. Whomsoever has got this beautiful flower garden or flowers will be my successor. After 1 year, everybody carries wonderful pots of beautiful flowers, fragrant flowers. There's one girl. She also had this seed 1 year ago. Nothing is growing. Whatever water she pours, miracle growth that we have, nothing is coming. But she still decides to go at the end of 1 year on the day that king said, everybody come back. I'll see who's ever got this best flower will be my successor. So she goes, here king, I'm embarrassed. I tried my level best. No flower is here. So he says, you're my successor. My test was not for this. I was testing who speaks the truth. I gave burnt seeds, roasted seed to everybody. I don't know how they're getting these wonderful flowers, but you are bringing this view, you're telling the truth. You can't grow. How did anyone? So you are my success. So tongue is to chant the holy name of the Lord, to speak the truth, and to have. So we will try to continue in about 2 weeks' time. I'm away for 2 weeks, so we'll continue again. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrindi ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Why you go like that?
Hare Hare.
No, them none came out.
Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna.
Like some more?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ramo, Hare Ramo, Ramo Ramo Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, जय गौरव प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि राधा गोपी वल्लभा की जय
गोपाल की जय इस्कॉन गुरु वृंद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय श्री गंगामयी की जय यमुनामयी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय तुलसी देवी की जय श्री मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय श्री नवद्वीपपुर धाम की जय श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय श्री श्री गोनिताय की जय श्री श्री राधा गोपी वल्लभ की जय श्री जगन्नाथ श्री बलदेव श्रीमती सुभद्रा महारानी की जय श्री लक्ष्मी नरसिंह भगवान की जय ISKCON Scarborough की जय Christmas Marathon ki jai. Srila Prabhupada Book Distribution ki jai. Brihat Mardanga ki jai. Nitai Gauda Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tinamini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskachali Sutarini.
Hare महाराज की जय। आनंद गौरी वैष्णव गौर प्रेमानंदे